Free your mind now. Be part of People's Pan-African Parliament, the Pan-African Pyramid Debate with your speaker, Andrew Irumba Katusabe.
Welcome aboard. Welcome to another edition of the Pan-African Pyramid Show here at Fairway Hotel. My name is Andrew Irumba Katusabe, your speaker. We are discussing the Africa-US Summit. The United States will host actually for tonight African heads of state and the African Union envoy in Washington for a 3-day US-Africa summit between 13th and 15th December. The US views this as an opportunity to strengthen ties with Africa. It is the second such summit under US President Joe Biden's administration, with the inaugural one hosted around the same time last year. According to Biden, the summit will demonstrate the United States' enduring commitment to Africa and will underscore the importance of United States and Africa relations and increase cooperation on shared global priorities. Africa will shape the future. That is according to Biden, not just the future of the African people, but of the world. Biden admits that Africa will save not just the future of African people, but even that of the world. Africa will make the difference in tackling the most urgent challenges and seizing the opportunities we all face today. The summit gets underway with advantage after the Russia-Africa version didn't materialize. The US and Russia view each other as rivals in the approach to Africa, and the war in Ukraine made the matters actually tense. The US Department of State's Bureau of Africa Affairs Deputy Assistant Secretary Robert Scott and the Special Assistant to the President and National Security Council Senior Advisor for the US-Africa Leaders Summit, Dana Banks, spoke to a group of African journalists about the upcoming summit. And here he says, Africa's voting patterns at the UN General Assembly on the war in Ukraine were an indicator of the continent's interests. For the US, for us, it had been a wake-up call because the continent hadn't condemned Russia outright. As such, Banks said the summit would consider that Africa is a key political player, one that is shaping our present and will shape our future. However, 4 countries have not been invited, that is Mali, Burkina Faso, Sudan, and Guinea, although civil society organizations from those nations will attend. The 4 will not attend because they are apparently serving their suspension over illegal transfer of power through coup recently. Zimbabwe, which was snapped last year, was actually invited to the summit this time round, but President Emerson Mnangagwa is unable to attend because of travel restrictions. Instead, Foreign Affairs Minister Frederick Shava, a former envoy to the UN in Washington, D.C., will make the trip representing the country of Mnangagwa. Now, the US-Africa Leaders Summit will actually build on the shared values to better foster new economic engagement. They will focus on fostering new economic engagement, advancement of peace, security, and good governance. They will also reinforce commitment to democracy, human rights, and civil society, work collaboratively to strengthen the regional and global health security, and they will also promote food and security. They will respond to the climate crisis. They will have to discuss around the climate crisis that the world is facing. They will also amplify the diaspora ties, country-to-country relations, and they will also promote education and youth leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to ask ourselves, is this engagement actually very impactful to the Africa's development agenda, or it's a mere ritual by the colonized heads of states? This is not the first time we are having this US-Africa summit. We have always had this, and actually there's also one called Choga by the UK. It's the same. They call you around the table, they champion their causes, and what Africa gets is a mere, some kind of tokens, but they take the giant. So we want to discuss. We have recently had the CHOGM in Rwanda here. What is it that we benefited as Africa? And now, America is copying from what CHOGM aims at, the UK, and America is actually simply, rebranding from the CHOGM of UK to Africa-US Summit. But the intentions, the debates, and everything, the participation is almost the same. So we would like to discuss this. Do these engagements actually help to champion the cause of Africa's development, or it is actually meant to touch into what you have as a continent, and then tomorrow they can come back and collect the same? To debate this topic tonight, I've been joined by my colleague, senior human resource consultant, but also a senior Pan-Africanist. I actually found him in the struggle, Brother Mindsets-Kashaya. I can't pretend that I was there before him. I found him there. And somebody else who found me is Mr. Michael Mpanga. That one is also my recruitment. At least that one is my recruitment. Yes, that one is my recruitment into Pan-Africanism. But Mindsets-Kashaya, I found him in the struggle already. So I'm glad I will begin with the senior Pan-Africanist on this platform. Mr. Kashaya, the next 15 minutes should be yours. Let's discuss the US-Africa Summit. Is it impactful to Africa's development agenda? There is Agenda 2063. If you look at the intentions, they are good. What is the implementation plan? And anyway, when you want to implement, where are the resources, Mr. Kashaya? Where are the Africa's resources? If you want to implement that, where are the resources? And so if America says we don't have the resources, are you going to implement the 2063 agenda? Mr. Kashaya.
With due respect, it is so disturbing this 21st century to see an independent country run by independent-minded leaders after celebrating 60 years of independence. African leaders being called, being summoned, as if they have even a case to answer, to go and report to police. It's not even a courtesy. It's like an obligation. You have to be there. Say someone, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Hey.
Yes.
They have to be there.
Hey, they have to be there.
Hey.
And after reaching there in Rwanda, you watched. They start with the roll call.
Oh.
In Stirumba, the president of Cameroon, yes, sir, president. Mr. Kashaya, the president of Cameroon, yes, sir, president. Start with the nominal role. Want to see whether you have come or not. Those who will not attend, because of some reasons at home, they have to attend. In Uganda, he said, because of the Colonialism, so severe the Colonialism, they have to attend. They are not attending that there are certain issues they are going to discuss. Nothing. They are going to attend because they are fearing they have the Colonialism answer, and therefore it will be a good courtesy to interact with the Inspector General of Police, who is inspecting them, the Global Inspector of Police. That's the thing. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, on the agenda of the so-called US-African Summit, which is slated on 13th up 15th December, these are things they are saying they are going to discuss. I need just to watch. I'm going to read them here. They are around 8 things they are going to discuss. 1, foster economic engagement. 2. Advance peace, security, and food governance, and good governance. 3. Reinforce commitment to democracy, human rights, and civil society. 4. Promote food security. 5. Work collaborative diaspora ties. Number 8. Promote education and youth leadership. Now here, the agenda looks to be a bit, you may think really there is much.
There's something positive.
There's something much. But let us dissect just few of these on the agenda. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, when you are to discuss about human rights, the human rights, I know it's going to be on the forefront. They are not going to talk about millions of Africans who are dying in oceans trying to cross to Europe and USA. Millions of Africans who are dying in boats, in oceans, either deliberately or otherwise. And none of African head of state has ever mentioned this in this engagement. This is dangerous. Our Africans are dying. And the whole world is square. This is a serious human rights issue. And it's not discussed. Instead, they will be talking about homosexuals.
Their rights.
They say
Their rights.
Africans, the rights to homosexuals, to gays and lesbians, that you see you people, if you want more funding, allow these guys to go to your communities and you openly do their things. I wish you will be watching. I don't know whether some of you watch CNN and some of these international news stations. You just tune on Sundays that please, if you want more money from us, if you want more collaboration with us, please accept the rights of gays and lesbians. And you will hear the whole conference, people clapping. They are not mentioning people who are dying. They will be talking about gays and lesbians. Now, on the same speak, people are not evaluating, assessing, investigating the loss of lives in countries where USA is permanently occupying illegally.
That's Cuba.
There is Cuba, there is a permanent torturing prison in Cuba.
In Cuba.
In Cuba. Cuba, near Cuba, Guantanamo Bay. There is no African head of state who can talk about that. These are serious matters. They are not talking about the lives of the people of Iraq who lost their lives during the war with the invasion, the senseless war by Americans' invasion. They are not evaluating the massacre and the killing of our brother Gaddafi. They are not talking about it. I was expecting African leaders, in fact, even to boycott, protest. That you guys, you killed us, and therefore we no longer. Why should really the 54 head of states in Africa go to have tea with the American president? when they were actually, United States has the worst human rights record in the world. It's known.
Human rights violations.
And Africans are not talking about it. So, there we are. Secondly, these colonial clubs, as my speaker said, the Chogamu, the United States, African, whatever.
US Africa Summit.
You know, I don't know who bewitched Africa for sure.
Who bewitched?
Because if you know that your grandfather was killed by a witch, and tomorrow you want to go back to the same witch, it means that in your head you have a problem. Africa has many problems, Mr. Speaker, sir. We are facing with these problems. We have wars in DRC. We have wars in Ethiopia. We have wars in Sudan. We have wars in Nigeria. We have wars all across the continent. African leaders themselves would be the ones now having conferences and see how to end these wars. We are wasting time going and being summoned by imperialists instead of solving our own problems. Do you need to be educated about African problems by an American scholar?
No.
Do you need really? Can a Congolese who has suffered because of civil wars listen to a scholar in USA, an expert on Great Lakes region? You're going to see these things. They will bring out another Mzungu who will say this man is an expert and he studied
on Great Lakes
region and he has specialized in areas to do with DRC security in DRC and Uganda. This is a man who has never gone even to Africa, who has never lived in Africa, who has never gone there, but this is an expert who is telling you all the 54 presidents listening to an expert who has never gone to Africa. Shame on you! What's wrong with you Africans? Can't all of us, 54 million, go to the airport and stop a president not to go to this summit? We can't do that as Pan-African. You can mobilize and say, please, because of ABCD, Mr. President, we want you and other Africans, or we can even go to Africa,
African Union.
African Union.
Addis Ababa.
And we say that we are requesting you to boycott this summit.
But the building was built by Chinese.
We rather have Chinese than those ones who have been really, you know, you rather befriend a person who is milking for you than a person who is hunting for you. Whom can you follow? The one who is giving you milk and the one who is looking for you with the spear. Who if you are in need, really, who among the two, who can you follow? These are serious matters. So, ladies and gentlemen, today I want, you know, Mr. Speaker, sir, Pan-Africanism is a spirit. And the spirit must be within you. You listen to this. The spirit of Pan-Africanism must be within you. It must be within your metabolic activities, what we call metabolism. It must be within your blood. You must feel it. It must circulate in your blood. It must go deep in your brain. And that's what we call activism. is activism. Because we are forcing those ones who are not thinking to think and see far. That we are tired with imperialists to keep on with their arrogance on us and reminding us what they did 60 years, 70 years back. And we say enough is enough. Can Africa at this age do their own things without these colonial clubs? This is the question. Can we do our own things without being invited by United States or these other imperialists? Can we do our own things? These are serious matters. Therefore, I would urge Mr. Speaker, sir, to compose a serious panel from Pan-African Pyramid to go to Arusha.
Tanzania?
To Ethiopia. Addis Ababa. Yes. Can we do that? Can we mobilize here, all of us, and we say, please, from now on, we have a document, and we give reasons why we don't want African leaders to go there? Because of the following A, B, C, D. Is that bad? This is the time, by the way, Africa, it needs us more. This is the time it needs us more. We are Pan-Africanists. I'm telling you. And we can tell United States to shut up. And I want them to hear now from me, because you don't fear them. These guys should shut up. What are they going to tell us? Congolese are dying in millions, in thousands. What are they doing? People are crossing in North Africa. They are dying in the ocean. They are quiet. So what are they doing? This is the time we wake up and say, we are tired of calling our leaders to go and have an evening tea when Africa is bleeding. Lastly, but not least, now, on the agenda there is number 4, promote food security. Huh?
Yes, food security.
Who is not knowing how many Africans are dying of hunger? Do you need to have a conference for you to prevent this? They are talking even about climate. Look at the industries and the chemicals they are using. Huh?
But even Mr. Kashaya, before you leave the food security,
yes,
the Americans, there is a man called this man of GMO. This man, Monsanto. You know Monsanto?
Yes.
Monsanto is the man in charge of this production of all these GMO crops and the pesticides.
Yes.
Now, Monsanto finds Africa with its own indigenous crops. These indigenous crops are in Monsanto's store. He keeps samples. Then he modifies and brings here GMOs. Now, those GMOs are meant actually to destroy your own resistant crops that are favorable for the African climate. So he brings these so that every season you have to go down in container village here.
Yes.
Or we know here, container village, and buy more crops. You see, those years we would get just one piece of maize, you keep it, and then at the start of the season you grow that one. You get more, you also keep another. Nowadays it is not possible. Every season you have to go to container village to buy new seeds. Seeds of beans, maize, peanuts. Now even it has gone to matoke.
From their country?
Yes, Monsanto. Now, he's the same man now coming to discuss about food security. The Americans, they want to have destroyed your food. And the ones coming to tell you, let us discuss food security. How can we sustain Africans? If you go to Mulago here, and he's a Pan-African, I believe him.
Okay.
You know, he's a journalist and he's a Pan-African, I believe him. They have not yet gone to Mulago. If you go to Mulago and all these other major hospitals that have cancer patients, the biggest contributor of those patients is Kasese. You go and find out, by the way, the good thing is that we are a researcher. Kasese, Rwenzori. Kasese, here, Rwenzori, Kasese. The biggest contributor of cancer patients in all major hospitals across the country, especially here in Mulago. Most of the patients are coming from Kasese. Do you know why? And mainly, they are coming from Mubuku area. Do you know Mubuku? You have, very good. The irrigation scheme. Now, that irrigation scheme, all the crops, tomatoes, onions, eggs, potatoes, everything, they are using chemicals to irrigate. Those chemicals over time have turned into poison. Now, those are the cancer patients that you are seeing at Mulago. Now it is poison. Because even the soil, now even if you don't spray, even if you grow today your potato, these root crops, potato, Irish, onions, even if you don't spray, the chemicals, Mr. Kashaya, that have been sprayed in the soils for over years, themselves have turned into poison, cancer.
You see, you know the problem with Uganda, that's why you see some of us struggling to use this foreign language. Many Ugandans have papers, but they don't have knowledge. People have PhDs, others are professors, others are what? But in the head, there is nothing. I'm sorry to speak this, I hope, but I'm a researcher. Because if really we had some serious cases with good
serious brains,
yeah, can they really? Because the other time, professors from one of the universities, you can be specific, from Makere, they were the ones actually who were campaigning for GMOs. Now, how can a professor who is doing research that does not know the serious effect of these chemicals? Now, you know, even you at your level, you can even challenge them. You don't fear because you are students. Isn't it? At the university level, you are not a kid. Who is the kid here? The kid factor. Who is the kid? I'm telling you, if you put your hand up, I will just smash you out. Then you're in the wrong place. That's a kid. You can call police. Because you see, let me tell you, young intellectual, let me tell you this. This country does not grow those old people. Are you aware of that? The future now is in your hands. You start challenging these mediocres. Start challenging these people who don't love this country. Challenge them. You know, some of you think that occupying those positions is like a permanent job. It's not. Tomorrow you are the professors running those institutions. Challenge them, Mr. Professor. Because you see, some of these things, I don't know whether some of you, how many of you do research on things that are affecting human beings at the university level? How many are at the university? How many of you are at university? Oh, very good. How many of you get time, apart from sending WhatsApp to your girlfriend or boyfriend, to take an interest in certain things that are affecting your fellow students? Like what you consume, the drugs you consume, things that you study, what they tell you, issues to do with international and national food consumption related issues. Do you really, or why you are just go because you're a student at the young adult, even if you die, no one cares? Is that correct? This country is yours. This continent is yours. Please, I beg, please, research. The problem you see even in Parliament, Mr. Speaker, why people even can't hold the microphone like this to speak. Because they don't research, they don't have knowledge. Now, if you don't have knowledge, what are you going to tell the world? You must be informed for you to inform others, isn't it? So what are you going to inform others when you are not informed? These are serious matters. So that's why I was encouraging you, the younger scholars and the intellectuals. Take your time to do research. When you go to the village, research. When you're in the Kampala, research. Don't just eat and go to class and just sleep. Research. And it will take it down. Finally, for sure, because there are other speakers. There is an issue of, I think, number 7 on the agenda. Amplify the diaspora time. Now, we have the problem now of Africans dying in the Middle East. I don't know, Mr. Speaker, on the agenda, whether they also invited some people from Middle East. I don't know whether the United States is also concerned about this. Because these are serious matters that perhaps we'll be talking about. That's for you as much as you're talking about human rights. But for us, we're talking about the lives and the life of some Africans who are dying illegally in your hands. These are serious matters. So when we are, no, I'm waiting to see whether we shall have a committed leader from Africa who can really say these things. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, in my conclusion, I see this United States Africa Summit, Leaders Summit, as a wastage of time, because Africans themselves can have their own summit and can discuss their own things and determine their own destiny. Good evening.
Thank you so much, Mr. That is the heads of the African countries. We have seen recently the CHOGM was held in Rwanda here, Tanzania here. We want to see how many problems did that CHOGM solve in Africa, or how many actually are in the pipeline to say we are solving ABCD. As they were seated in Rwanda, Kigali, there was a war going on in DRC. That war is simply intensifying. What is it that they discussed? When you look at here, part of the issue they are discussed, they are putting here is security. But Mr. Kashaya agrees with me that even the insecurity in the continent is mainly sponsored by the West. But then they are telling us they are coming to discuss security matters, how we can actually overcome the insecurity that we have on the continent. But some people like Kashaya and I believe that, unless otherwise, we believe that all these wars in Africa, the West has a hand in them. When you're discussing about food security, we believe that our food, the indigenous food of Africa, is being wiped out by the same West. So even the issues they're talking about that they're coming to solve here, and the reason why the African heads of state are actually going to Washington, D.C., you and I, do we have trust in them that they can actually go there, discuss these matters, come back home with solutions that are actually people-centered? The only man I remember that used to actually talk sense and believed in his speeches was the late Robert Mugabe and Muammar Gaddafi. Whenever he went in those fora, they would actually speak out their mind, whether you agreed with them or not, and they would stand by that. Mr. Michael.
A blind man's groundnuts must keep whistling as evidence to show that there is nothing in his mouth.
What did he say?
One.
He who? Okay.
He who, or one that is working on a blind man's groundnuts, must keep whistling as evidence that there is nothing in his mouth. The whistling has no importance at that moment. It is only an evidence to the blind man that I do not have anything in my mouth and I am not eating your groundnuts.
So let's
part of the US Africa Summit one of the core reasons is to increase cooperation of global priorities. US is a first-class country. Uganda is a third world country. If I'm not mistaken, we are steadily, though slowly, going towards the direction of a failed state. Many people actually love to refer to this country as a banana republic because of what happens here. Our priorities firsthand are different. There's a statement from President Joe Biden. He was saying Africa will shape the future, not just the future of the African people, but the future of the world. Now, I want to assert very carefully, colleagues. This is jokery.
Joe Biden added, Africa will make the difference in tackling the most urgent challenges and seizing the opportunities we all face.
Exactly. Now, I want to assert very carefully that one, this is jokery, it is mockery of the highest order, it is nebulous and sheer lack of gambit.
Huh? Mockery understood.
Yes.
Yes. Now,
and
the last one.
Nebulous, contrivance, sheer lack of gambit.
Those three.
It does not have a proper sense of direction.
Oh, you're talking about Joe Biden's statement.
Yes, the statement.
The President of the United States of America.
Exactly. This statement is jokery in this way. One, Mr. Kashaya talked about some of the key elements that are highlighted. I also would want to talk about the response to the climate crisis. Africa makes up closely 25% of the world's total population. We are only having emissions of 3% to climate destruction. Now, one would tell me you're talking about Europe, but USA is not part. Now, if USA only comprises, Europe only comprises 10% of the world's population, and they emit 25%, then it would be incumbent, if USA felt it is important to respond to climatic crisis, they should engage Europe first, not Africa. Yes. I want to lure our thinking to the fact that there is a resounding success that exposes America's media ignorance of the emerging Africa. There have been criticisms that actually refer to the US-Africa Summit as the Ebola Summit. And who's at the front line? The American media. Now, we do not engage where we do not feel loved, protected, and felt important. I do not know what exactly African states are going to do in a summit that has already been branded by a media of their host country, the Ebola Summit. Now, this level of disrespect is what African leaders have at some point have to do away with.
They have said this is an Ebola Summit.
Yes. There has also been a collection and series of posts discussing strengthening ties between the US and Africa. Well, truly, one would say there is going to be limited success coming from this summit. But we must also agree that part of the criticisms are carried from the fact that the host country and its media are poorly informed about Africa and have a wrong image of the Africa that we are. I was going through objective indicators of any summit, and one, there must be a tangible plan of action. I want to assure you, colleagues, that the US-Africa Summit is going to be a talk show without concrete agreement. Just the way Chokam was. If we chose to ask anyone what was concrete agreement about the US-Africa Summit, we all cannot give an actionable plan that we find worthy to the effect. Two, we will talk about effective and coherent participation of African leaders. What happened in Chogam? CHOGM was a lecture that was meant to indoctrinate African states with what the West wants, how they should govern their countries, and which direction they should go. And I want to assure you this is not going to be any different. But African states seated in silence and absorbing the lectures of indoctrination. 3, we can talk about the alignment with African development, its priorities and strategies. Now, Africa has what is core about its development. And some of the specific issues are not even explicit in this summit. For example, we will talk about regional integration. That is a core development goal for Africa. We can talk about the illicit capital flow, and these do not appear anywhere. I hope we can realize that at this juncture, this summit has little or nothing to do with the development of Africa. 4, they are pushing a shift from unilateralism to mutualism. Now, what has been happening is US publicly publicizes that its relationship with Africa puts Africa at the benefiting side and US are not beneficiaries. And now, part of the discussion here is bringing the fact to light that the relationship that we share with them must be mutual. Mutual relations are friendly in nature, where each of the parties that are involved and trigger to the same must benefit. I hope that shows us where we are heading. I was also reading a report, Right Honorable Speaker. This report is from Robbie Grammer. He's a diplomacy and national security reporter on foreign policy. Robbie Grammer issued this report on the 17th of November 2022 at 4:59 p.m. And he noted, Biden's Africa Summit has democracy as part of their agenda, but not on the invite list. Okay? Let me go through that again. Robbie Grammer says, Biden's US Africa Summit has democracy as part of their agenda, not on the invite list. And he continued to argue out that we cannot have democracy as one of their agendas, and on the invite list are autocrats. To break down autocrats, these are leaders that independently take leadership upon themselves, that do as they please, leaders that have been involved in acts, in war crimes and acts of degrading humanity.
Crimes against humanity.
Yes, crimes against humanity.
Let's go.
And then he also continues to note. Now, friends, let us listen to this very, very carefully, so that I can build my nation from an informed point of view when we all know on what basis I am making a conclusion. He says, the US Africa Leaders Summit is one of President Joe Biden's top foreign policy priorities in the coming month. It is the first opportunity for his administration to showcase how it views the future of US, not the future of Africa. This is a foreign policy by a president that he is fighting to put to effect. And all Americans are waiting the conclusions and resolutions that are going to be inculcated from this summit.
So we can say the interests of Africa US Summit are not the interests of Africa.
They are the interests of the US.
Free your mind now.
To move on what you said right now, the US Africa Summit will build on our shared values to be better. And that's, if you read it, I may call it a comic if I was a comedian. Because we all know the white people, they love to mock us. Because we all know that the whites are within the economic war. Who doesn't know that? Because when I was reading through some journals about accounting, whereby they say in Washington, policymakers say such economic partnership would allow US businessmen to have a presence in Africa where the Chinese and European countries are competing across the continent. We are going back to the scrambled partition of Africa, not by leadership, but by economic values. I say no to that. Should our presidents go because they are already going to be there? I would tell them to tell the white people, don't give us the fish, but we already know how to fish. Just allow us to sell our things to your countries, but don't dictate to us how much we should sell. But what I know, our presidents and our governments are going to do deals on how to stay in power and how to clinch on power, not for the goodness of the people. So, even when I go forward to show you that this summit is not what you think, but it is inside trying to do a scramble partition of Africa. Russia are rescheduling their same kind summit, and theirs will be in 2023 in St. Petersburg. What shows you this? It shows that these people are scrambling for African market because they know Africa has a lot of population. What should we do? I go back to the young people because I represent young people.
That's why I was expecting you in Washington, D.C.
I wasn't invited, sorry for that. And if they invited me, I would go and I would face them and I would tell them what I'm telling you today. We need an economic independence, but not dictating to us what to do. We have been in Africa and we have been a dumping state for these people for so long. And now they're devising new means of us being more of being a dumping continent. So what should we do as Africans? What we should do as Africans, I will say what I said yesterday and what I said the other Friday. That we as young people, our grandfathers did their part. They got the independence, which was a comic because we are already independent. They showed us the way to go. But our time we spend it in our own pressure. But I'm telling you this, in the coming years we will find that we will be in mayhem and crying because you will be 40 years if God accepts that you reach there because your life expectancy is coming down. If you don't fight now by using your mouth and your media platforms, if I ask how many of you have tweeted about this summit, I will find none. But if I ask you who of you tweeted about the game between Brazil and the other team, I will find a lot of numbers. We lose our mindset from the main goal of our livelihoods and we focus on things that are not benefiting us. Because it is our future that is on the risk. And my message to our presidents, because every person spoke about everything as it should be. There is nothing that will be discussed in this summit that is going to benefit us. Because it is not the first kind of the summit that has been here. Joe Biden is losing his term. Everyone knows that, I'm sorry to say, because the Senate is going. Donald Trump is warming. So this is just a playing summit. It is nothing that will help us. But what we need there, if it happens to be there, is to talk to the faces of these people, as the Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, may his soul rest in peace, like the Robert Mugabe was speaking. Let's speak to their faces and tell them, don't give us rules how to operate. If you want a cooperation with us, let us be on the same table. For example, an American will come and do business in Uganda and will be given favors, a lot of favors. And that this person will come when he only has, let me say, $10,000 on his account, and Uganda will call him an investor. But a Ugandan like Hamis Chibundu won't be given the opportunity to invest in USA because he is black. And this one is a white. And our governments are full of dealers. So we need actual solutions. not going into rooms and eat sweets and drink water. Lastly, as I conclude, I ask of you, Mr. Speaker, to allow me. I want to inform the House that which kind of summit whereby some African leaders are not invited into. For example, the Sudan leader is not invited. The Mali, the Burkina Faso, the Guinea, because if you look at these coups that happened, the Dombuyas, they are bringing Africa to a forefront. Dombuya speaks African, you see an African man. He said to the French people, this is my country, you can teach me how to operate my country. He's not invited.
Free your mind now.
Dear Africans and the Speaker, I want to tell you that today Africa is being undermined. When you compare Africa today and in the years in the 20th century, you will believe me that today we are being undermined, we are being manipulated. When you look at people like Kwame Nkrumah said that Africa can be in a position to unite herself politically. She can even be in a position to unite herself economically. But he said that my fear is the psychosocial impact of colonization. These people have managed to inferiorize our minds, to tell us that we are so weak. Ngugi wa Thiong'o Kenya said that we must think of decolonization of the minds. When you look at these agendas, these plans, Joe Biden, the President of the United States, has put down, these are good reasons. They are good. It is good to have security in Africa. It is good to talk about climate crisis. It is good to talk about the diaspora ties, promote education, foster economic development. They are good. But the question is, why are they discussed outside Africa? Why can't they be discussed in Africa? What you want to mean in Africa, we don't have bodies that can discuss these issues. Don't we have the African Union? Don't we have the East African Community? We have the ECOWAS, we have the SADC in the southern part of Africa. But he has gone to undermine all those regional organizations, has gone even extra mile to undermine the African Union. I don't think that where Kwame Nkrumah is happy. I don't think that where Manuel now is happy. These people, they have started gaining confidence in Africa because of the death of such leaders. The last one was of 2017 when Robert Mugabe was ousted from power, and that's how Africa has been undermined. You cannot say that you want to promote security in Africa and you eliminate countries where we have insecurity. Look at the Burkina Faso. In 1 year, 2 coup d'etats, and you are saying that the president of Burkina Faso don't come this side, but in your agenda you want to discuss security. We have chaos and crisis in Sudan after the ousting of Omar al-Bashir. We have those chaoses, but you are saying that that is a dictatorial nation. Don't come this side to discuss security. Now, which kind of security are we going to discuss with? All those associations, those meetings have yielded nothing. Since right away from the 1945 after the Second World War, we went into what we call the Cold War politics. These superpower nations have been fighting for the superiority of the world. The capitalists versus the socialists of Russia, USSR, before it had collapsed in 1991. But they have yielded nothing. We have got things like CHOGM, we have like the Francophone countries, the Russophone countries, all of them, they have been embedded in those European nations. CHOGM was of recent in Rwanda. What has it yielded? It took place in Rwanda. It is just a bordering country to Democratic Republic of Congo. But up to now, we still have wars in Congo. Yet the CHOGM countries, which among those ideas was fostering peace and security in Africa. Congo is still not at peace.
Actually, after the Choga war in DR Congo intensified.
They continued to even hijack more places in DRC.
What a joke.
So these meetings, these summits have yielded nothing. And I want to conclude and say that these summits and all those organizations that African heads of states are interested in, they are economically straining and they are morally wrong for us to join them. I salute.
These US people, these Europeans, look at the continent of Africa as a troubled continent, as a dark continent, as an elusive continent. Okay. Yes.
That's an opinion of that researcher.
Yes.
Okay. It's his opinion. Okay.
Yes, and actually it was correlating well with the summit of 2014 that was, the summit of 2014 that was summoned by Barack Obama, the former president of the US. One of the resolutions in this summit was to commend the bravery, commend the performance of the African leaders. But however, it was summed up, or it ended in criticizing them of the poor leadership, of their poor record of democracy, the good governance, and this, in so doing, was pushed highly by the international media. They've blinded African leaders with the perception, with this stupid notion that their perceptions are received, that their ideas are taken into consideration. But in actual sense, they are invigorously scaling up their interests in Africa. Right, Honorable Speaker, sir, take an example of Ghana. Here they invigorously scaled up their interests. They showed up their interests. I'm talking about USA. USA openly scaled up its interest in Ghana. Take an example of Chad. The president was invited himself, but he said that if we don't resolve and build a relationship of equal value, of equal rights between both continents, then this is going to be a long-waited but shambled goal. Okay. Yes. In my conclusion, right, Honorable Speaker, sir.
Because conclude you must.
Yes. Africa is endowed, is richly endowed, more than any other continent. Richly endowed, yes, more than any other continent. First of all, with Africans, with youths, with spark reasoning capacities. These people here, these youths, these young youths can reason. We young blood.
But why are we where we are then?
We young blood.
Why are we where we are?
We are here where we are because of our leaders.
Because of our leaders.
Our leaders are being indoctrinated by this stupid notion that they can go ahead without the help, without this upper hand.
The great man syndrome.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of tonight's show. See you again next Friday. But follow this show on tomorrow, Saturday, on NBS TV from 4 to 5. My name is Andrew Irumba Katsoya, speaker, and I'm signing out here. Thank you.